So the Office of Housing, we actually are a part of the Department of Health and Human Services. We're located at 6401 York Road in the Drumcastle Center. So we are, under Health and Human Services is the Office of Housing, Department of Social Services, and the Department of Health. They're the three major organizations. There's a couple of the small ones there. Also, I am the Executive Director for the Human Relations Commission. We handle discrimination and fair housing and things of that nature. I am also the Director of the Energy Assistance Program. So when people's BG&E gets cut off and all that, we process those applications. I manage that program also. So the Office of Housing, what do? We have approximately 7,000 vouchers that we administer for the for HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development. The vouchers, we have approximately 5,600 of them are what we call tenant-based vouchers. They are individuals that came up, that were on our waiting list. They came to the top of the list. We issued the vouchers. They can use those vouchers anywhere they want. We have dash vouchers that are also only for veterans. We administer for the Veterans Administration. The Veterans Administration sends us the candidates. Then we issue the vouchers and we manage the program for them. We have a pool of vouchers that are for people, which is called Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS. The Health Department selects those candidates. We just administer for them. We pay the landlords. We make sure that they are in compliance with the program. We have vouchers that are for the near elderly disabled, and they're considered what's called NEDs 1 and 2. Either you're near elderly disabled or you're near elderly disabled and you need case management. So that group of types of vouchers make up that 7,000 voucher pool. I mean, all of them are a little bit different. We also have a few project-based voucher programs. One is Tapco Towers in Towson. It's an elderly disabled building. We administer 182 vouchers there. We are also implementing a project, and I'll talk about the agreement, along with the agreement that we just came to with HUD, for 150 scattered site, meaning they're not adjacent to anything, they're all over the county, scattered site handicap accessible units for families of 3 or more, and also 2 or more. So 50 of them will be 2-bedroom, and the other 100 will be 3-bedroom or more, so that we can start to be able to house people with disabilities throughout the county. We get approximately $59 million a year to administer, to pay tenant payments to landlords. We get approximately, I want to say it's like, I want to say about $7 million to run the program. We earn money to run the program off of the number of vouchers that are in use. So if the vouchers aren't being used, we don't get the administrative fee. So we don't, that's what we use to pay the salaries of the individuals that work in the Office of Housing. We partner with the Department of Planning. They have the Community Block Grant Funds. They have the Home Funds. And we partner with them for initiatives to bring affordable housing to Baltimore County and again the county as a whole. So that's the Office of Housing. That's on its surface what we do. Now, we also, since I came to Baltimore County in June of 2012, since then we've transformed the Office of Housing to just a place where you get a voucher. We have our own waiting room. We have housing search computers for the individuals on the program who come into our office and actually sit and look for housing all over the county and not just depend on girlfriend referrals or landlord referrals, so they can really kind of get a feel for what is truly out there in the county. We have hired 2 housing search specialists that work with the individuals to determine where is the best housing for your family. If you have small kids, you don't want to live next door to the high school, you want to live next door to the elementary school. We ask those kind of questions. where do you want to live, how many people are in your family, all of that, so that the families aren't moving year after year, so that the communities can have a bit of stability, so you don't have families moving in and out, and they never really set up roots in the community as the way that we know it in the past. So we're really working with the families to get them to get involved in their communities, stay put, make sure your families are secure, and really integrate yourself into the community. So that's the initiative that I put into place about 3 years ago. And it's working really well. We are finding that when I arrived to Baltimore County, we had approximately 500 families every month in the move process. Now we're down to about 250 families that move on a monthly basis. And we're hoping to get that number down to less than 100. Probably won't happen. We see a lot of our move activity in the summer months when people are moving again to position their families for school. They're moving from one school jurisdiction to another. What else can I tell you? Let's talk about the agreement that was in the newspaper. So when I arrived at Baltimore County in June of 2012, my first assignment was to go down to HUD for a meeting, and it was for them to explain this complaint that we got in July of 2012. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But basically, there's information about the complaint on the Baltimore County website. But the basis of it was that the HUD and several other entities felt that Baltimore County was not being fair and operating under the fair housing practices by allowing families to have affordable housing in all areas of the county. And the county was not promoting that activity in any way. So it took a while. They did a couple of analysis and things like that. And then we sat down at the table. And it took us 3 years to hash it out. We wanted stuff, they wanted stuff. But at the end of the day, HUD was satisfied, the NAACP was satisfied, and Baltimore County was satisfied. We willingly put up the money that you see on the article to provide developers with funds so that they could do what they needed to do to promote affordable housing in the county. We have put up funds so that we can have accessible housing and affordable in the county. The Baltimore County Office of Housing has transformed a lot of its forms, regulations, and brochures to make sure that everyone has access to the information, understands the information, and we will do a greater job of helping those families navigate through Baltimore County and their housing needs and issues. We created a mobility program. Our mobility program will house families in areas of opportunity, which means it's an area that is not highly concentrated with African Americans. It has good schools, it has access to transportation, and it's not impoverished. So it's really 92 indicators, but those are the most important ones. So we will work with families to move them to areas of opportunity. Under federal regulation, we can't steer a family. We can't say you have to live here, but what we want to do is make sure that they know all about housing opportunities in Baltimore County. As I was telling Carolyn when I came in, a lot of times our program participants will navigate to where they know they can lease. So they have 60 days from the time we issue them the voucher to find some place to live. So they're not going to let the clock tick while they run around and search, which is why we implemented the housing search specialists to help them. But they're going to go where their girlfriends or prior landlord or someone told them someone will take your voucher.
I have a question.
Sure.
Overall, is there any housing units or landlords, so to speak, in the county that can legally deny the housing certificate?
No.
All of them can. Because we do not have, and again, a part of this agreement was that the county executive will introduce legislation to the council for source of income legislation, which means that no landlord or property manager can deny that person access to that housing because of their source of income. The voucher is considered a source of income, but so is Social Security payments, so is VA disability payments. That's all in that bill, but people really focus on
I
the
have a
voucher
copy of the
portion of
contract
So
that the county executive did. Anybody wants to see it? I have the actual contract that the county executive signed 2/27/16.
so they can or can't
They
deny?
can. I mean, they can't.
So once the source of income is passed, they will not be able to.
Okay.
So in the agreement that was signed with HUD, it says that the county executive will introduce that legislation. It has not passed in the county as of yet. If it passed, the agreement also says if it passes at the state, that the county executive's obligation to continue to promote the bill ends, because it doesn't really matter then, because it's a state law. So whichever happens first. But that's a prime reason why you find areas of concentration, because there are areas where landlords will not accept the voucher.
Is there a date scheduled for the county council to hear it?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
You might not be able to answer this, but I want to know why the federal government buys houses, okay, at ridiculous prices, and then sells them to speculators or landlords, whatever you want to call them, at ridiculously low houses, low prices.
So we're buying the houses.
Yeah, I mean,
And I can't answer that question because I don't
Okay.
work for the federal government, so I don't
Okay.
know why they do that.
'Cause in my
We actually
neighborhood-
I work for the county,
okay.
and we receive federal funds to administer.
And you know, and I understand everything that you're saying, but the problem that I have with that when they're charging $1,650, what happens if it's a month rent, and it's a young couple and they want to get married, okay, and they want to rent a house? They can't afford that. They cannot afford that rent. What do you do then?
So I can only speak to the
Okay.
rents under the voucher
All right,
program.
I have another question for you.
Okay.
What
So
are
do you want the answer under the voucher program, or you're more talking about fair market rents in general?
fair market rents? Yeah.
Okay. Well, HUD sets the fair market rents as
Okay.
it relates to this area, and then we use those fair market rents to determine rents. under the
$2,200
voucher
in this
program.
area seems like it's a lot of money.
So a landlord can charge, and one of our landlords just walked in, a landlord can charge whatever they want. They can say, I have a 2-bedroom house and I'm going to charge $2,000 rent.
Yeah, but
Right?
that's
So
the county taxpayers' money.
So let me finish. So what we do is we go to the fair market rents. At the fair market, we pay up to 110% of the fair market rent. So if the fair market rent for that zip code, that house is only $900, the most they're going to pay is $990.
Well, I do have some
So they
papers
can
here.
ask for $2,000, and we under the voucher program, we're not going to get it. If they find someone in the open market that's willing to pay $2,000,
I actually have
good
some.
luck for them.
I actually have some listings from this area here that's from your office that actually does tell what the prices are here according to zip code. You have 1,200, you got 14, you got 15, 750, and that's the negotiable price. You know, the other price is a little bit higher.
What's becoming the norm
Well,
is 10% annual increases. Someone locks in on the end, they're living in that place, and it goes up 10%. It happens round the clock.
We do,
All areas,
so
all areas of the
we
county.
do
Well,
not
this is an
honor
old report.
every
This is an old
increase
one.
that is requested year to year. So we have some landlords that have not received an
And
increase in
the-
over 8 years.
Well, the vouchers, where they have fair market housing along with the vouchers, the people with vouchers are getting 3 to 5% increases, and people with fair market housing are getting 10% increases.
yeah.
That's why I moved.
And another question I'm going to ask is, what are homeowners' rights? Say you have a house that is a disturbance. Well, I'll give you a good example. About 6 years ago in my neighborhood, we had a friend of mine rented a house out, and it was Section 8. And what happened was, I said, you know, if we have any problems, let us know. You know, if we have any problems, we'll call you. So we called him. And, you know, we tried to straighten it out with the people that lived in the house. And they wouldn't let us straighten it out. It was we're picking on them, we're doing this. No, we're not picking on you. You know, you're throwing rocks at my car, you're damaging, your son's damaging my car. I want him to stop it. Until one day he threw a can of Chef Boyardee raviolis on my car. And, you know, when I said something to the mother of the little boy, she said my son didn't do it. And I said, well, call him. And then she saw the tomato ketchup on him. Then she had to clean it off. You know, I said, well, now you can clean my car off. You know, he's doing it. So we kept having problems with the family, with fighting back and forth. Then they had 2 other families move in. Okay, and I called the landlord and I told the landlord what was going on. He didn't want to hear it. You know, I'll talk to him. Finally, and this one all can be Googled because it was in the paper. Memorial Day weekend, guy walks up to the policeman on Gershbeck's lot and says he just bludgeoned his girlfriend in the basement. Still could not go and get the people out of that house. It wasn't until 6 or 7 months later that someone was walking their dog. Guy goes up, knocks on the door of the house, takes his fist, busts the woman in the face, and then a call was made to the police department. I believe, as the call was said, that they thought they could have seen a gun. It was at night. They weren't sure what they were saying. What do you have to do to get somebody like this out of a neighborhood or off on the thing? They completely violated the code of Section 8. You're not supposed to have anybody except who's on your lease in that house.
That is correct. So again, I have 7,000 voucher holders.
Yeah.
So we can't police each and every one of them. So there's a three-way relationship as it relates to the housing choice voucher. We have an agreement between the tenant, our client, the person who's receiving the voucher, and our office. They are informed of what the rules and regulations of the program are and that they are to adhere to them. We provide that same information to the landlord.
Yeah, I have copies of it.
They can't enforce that piece, we do. And then there is the relationship between the tenant, our client, which now becomes the tenant, and the landlord. The landlord is obligated to enforce their lease. So if the landlord does not enforce their lease, if the landlord doesn't call us and say there's an unauthorized occupant in the unit, we can't do anything about it.
He
and
did
I will
call.
tell you 9 times out of 10,
He did
we
call.
find out about it when they're ready to put them out.
He
And they'll
did.
say, oh, well, he's been living there for 8 months. So once we know about it, then we can act on it.
He did call and nothing was resolved. When he kept calling, he never got a call back from your office.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
but
you
that
can
was
give
6
me.
years ago, right?
Yeah, well, we're still having problems. Different
again,
situation.
We brief the landlords and we tell them if you're having an issue with a client and you can't
I'll give you
enforce your
the
lease.
address.
We have to.
Okay, you can give me the address
will.
after the meeting. Just 1 second, I'll be right with you. But again, so we can't get involved with that landlord-tenant issue unless the landlord brings us in. And again, we can't do anything as it relates to the eviction.
Well,
The
I'm
landlord
actually
has to
meeting with
enforce
the
their
landlord.
lease. The landlord has to go through the process of evicting that person if they're not adhering to the lease. Then we get involved and deal with them from a program standpoint because they wouldn't have gotten evicted if they were following the program guidelines. So they're 2 separate issues and we have to keep them separate because we're not a party to the lease. We have a contract with the landlord to pay a certain amount on behalf of the client to the landlord, and that's the extent of our relationship with the landlord and that tenant. But the landlord is key to this. He has to adhere to and enforce his lease.
Does, in your department, with the housing, is there any type of service for, how can we say, aid in transition from voucher into mainstream
There
working?
is. There is.
Is
It's
there
a great
anything to
question.
help them
And
try to get?
so that program is called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. We actually have the #1 family self-sufficiency program in the country. We have approximately 410 participants in that program. We are also undergoing a national study so that they can model our program and take it across the country because we have such a high success rate. We have individuals, so the way that it works is they sign up for 5 years. It's a 5-year program, and you establish goals in year 1 that you either want to own a house, you want to graduate from high school or college, you want to get a certain job, whatever it is. And our staff works with you over those 5 years to make sure that you achieve those goals. While you're doing that and you're increasing your income, the difference between what we used to pay and what we now pay goes into an escrow account for you, so that you can either utilize that fund to help achieve your goals, or at the end of the 5 years and you graduate from the program, then you get that escrow amount so that you can get yourself established if it's you need to buy a car, whatever it is. So we have staff that monitors what those goals are and make sure that you're achieving them. If you decide not to participate in year 3 and you drop out of the program, you get to retain your voucher, but you don't get any of the money that you accumulated. The money goes back into the program. Last year we had 15 people go to home ownership. Okay, so we had 15 individuals go to home ownership. We had 7 people that graduated from, got their master's degree. We had 15 people that got their undergrad degree. We've had individuals that came into that program with 0 income, and we had someone that graduated 2 years ago that is now making $85,000. So it's a very successful program. We monitor it really well, and we work with partners throughout the community to make sure that those residents have all the opportunities they can. Because the only way that I can deal with my waiting list is to get the vouchers back. Right? So when we get those vouchers back, then I can help someone else that's waiting for assistance.
What is the average time that a person stays on a voucher?
It ranges from...
Like say it's 2,000 people, what would be the percentage of them going in after 5 years, 3 years?
How many of the 2,000 would still have their voucher?
Mhm.
Probably all of them.
No, but what I'm
That if
saying
they're
is,
not- if
when
they're
do they
not
go
on
off
this-
their, when do they go off their vouchers? Or is this,
They can keep it for life. So that once the voucher is issued, unless they do something to violate the program regulations, they can have it until they die.
but does that help them seek jobs or anything like that? I mean, are they gonna stay on it for life?
They have the ability to stay on it as long as they do not
Just a welfare
come
system.
off until they get to the point where one of 2 things happen. They pass away, they violate the program, sorry, it's 3 things. And or they get to the point where we're not paying any portion of their rent. So when they get to where we're
So
paying
it's
0,
no system
then
for,
they come off.
so stop,
And that's not a Baltimore County, that's a federal
that's a
government
fact, so
regulation.
it's no real reason why they should go out and seek a job or seek employment or anything like that, like.
Well, so like I said, I have 400 people on a program that said from day one, I want to get off this program. Not everybody on our program, and we have individuals that are not on the FSS program that once they get their sea legs under them, so to speak, they give us the voucher back. So not everyone, is the program designed so that they don't have to give it back? Yes, but not everyone wants to be on the voucher forever. A lot of our participants don't want anyone in their business because every year they've got to come in and tell us who's living in your house, how much they're making,
Who
every
verifies that?
aspect of their life, and not everybody wants that. And we as an office try to promote self-sufficiency either through that program or
So
through
nobody
other
really
programs.
verifies that, it's just you're taking their word, am I correct?
Their
'Cause
word on,
Like who lives in their house? I mean, it's,
so we do verify that because we go in once a year and see. So let me just give you an example.
now is that a
If-
county inspector?
They are county inspectors.
See,
So
I,
let me give you an example. So if we have a participant that comes on the program, it's a mother
They're on the
and
lease.
two children, 2 females.
mhm.
Our inspector goes in year 1 to do the annual inspection. He sees shaving cream in the bathroom, there's men's clothes hanging in the closet. He comes back and reports that to us.
But how much advance notice do they get of
Well-
when the appointment's scheduled?
They do,
get-
they do,
Because I know
they
once they
do
put
give
their
it, but here's what
appointments
So
happens.
let me address that. So they, by law, we can't just go knock on the door and say, come let me
No,
in.
they're
So
fine.
we do have to give them notice whenever we go to their house for whatever the reason. Even if they call and say, I need you to come inspect my house because something's going on, we have to give them notice that we're coming. So they get 30 days advance notice, as well as the landlord. And like I said, again, it's a communication thing. So if the neighbors call and say there's someone unauthorized living in the unit, then we contact the person and we say, we understand you have an unauthorized person. Before we make the contact, we have access to their, to motor vehicles. We look to see if there's a vehicle registered
Oh, no.
when someone is not. So we do our due diligence to try to determine if there's someone there. But again, yes, could they get rid of all the
I know
stuff?
some, I know a couple
Yes,
that do.
but
Yeah,
again,
I know
we're
quite a
not gonna
few.
catch
They're
everybody, but
experts at flipping
I
the
will tell
apartment.
you, I've been doing this for 9 years now. Whatever is done in the dark eventually comes to light. They eventually trip themselves up. We find out about it. Once we find out about it, we go back to the time that we've determined the person was there, and they've got to repay that money. So
Oh, okay.
we go after them. So it's not like we find out about it and we smack their hand and we keep moving. We go back after the subsidy that we would not have paid if we knew that person was in the unit. This young lady's been waiting to.
Like a tax lien.
Okay, now you mentioned that, you check out the fair market value of the area and you give a percentage as part of the voucher. So it's not that the landlord, that's all the landlord gets. If the
No.
landlord's asking 2,000 and you give, I'm just saying 1,000, whatever, how, I don't know how your
Right.
calculations work, the tenant has to come up with the other
No,
1,000.
they do not.
No.
They cannot ask the tenant for any more than the rent we authorize. So if we say your $2,000 unit, we're only paying $1,500, period. They cannot enter into a side agreement with the tenant to pay the other $500.
Okay, now the
And if
follow-up.
they do, both parties are in violation of the program because the participant is not allowed to enter into a side agreement with the landlord, and we clearly, there's a contract between us and the landlord that says you will not initiate a
Okay.
side agreement with the tenant.
Now, that was the next question. These landlords have to be landlords that accept subsidized housing.
Correct.
Okay, so it's, if there's a person who owns one rental property and they are renting it out, if they don't contract with Baltimore County, they don't, because,
That's
they're.
correct.
Okay,
That is
Okay.
the correct statement.
so you have to want to be a landlord that's receiving those subsidies.
Correct.
Got it.
How long have they had the opportunity, doorway up program in?
The mobility program?
No, to get people advanced off the voucher. You know,
Like
the
you
opportunity.
said.
The FSS program?
Yeah.
It's been in Baltimore County for 12 years now.
So it's growing, it's doing better?
Yes, they actually started off with 50 participants, and now it's at 410. And if we have our way, if we get more money, we will have more participants, because we are actually funding that escrow through our administrative fees.
Regarding this program, how many housing vouchers did you say you have available to people normally?
Totally, we have, it's approximately, it's like 6,800 and something, but for the tenant-based vouchers, which is the vouchers that you all normally deal with, we have 5,700 and some odd number.
So any of those people within those vouchers could sign up to be a part of this program?
That's correct, it's voluntary, we can't force them to do it.
And who finances this program? The
Hi.
government?
Mhm.
We do.
And
We do.
who, yeah, I know that. Who pays for their college education?
We do.
No, no, none of that
Yeah, that-
comes
that
from us,
doesn't-
from our housing office. We work with either the schools, the student, to try to find sources of funds to help pay for their education. More of our, there's only, let me put it this way, there's a very small percentage of our participants that do not work. So a lot of them have incomes, they all have jobs, a lot of them have jobs, so through their job, they might do tuition assistance, whatever. So we help them navigate through that so that they can get the money they need to pay. So let's say that they start out in school in year 1 or year 3, because of their schooling or whatever reason, they've increased their income, they've built a little nest egg in their escrow. If they can't find someone to help them pay for that tuition, we allow them to dip into that escrow, and we pay by increasing their income.
Okay,
So if they don't increase their income, no money goes into the pot.
okay.
Okay, so they increase their income, they got money in the pot, now they can't pay for school. So you let them dip into the pot to get money to pay for school. What if they then drop out of the program?
Then we've lost the money, but I will say to you that we don't allow anyone to dip into the pot that looks like they're kind of not gonna move forward. So if you're in school one semester and then you take 3 semesters off and then you know, you quit your job and you kind of, you know, waffling on your commitments, they can't ever dip into their money. And we don't care if they, you know, get on their hands and knees and beg, like, oh, please, 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 let me do it. I promise I'm gonna do it this time, because it's not fair to them, because they're not adhering to the program that they signed up for. And we're sticklers about adhering to the program that they signed up for.
Well, I'm happy that someone's doing something for people with legitimate disabilities. I am very happy to hear that. But I'm curious about why is the NAACP involved in this? And then secondly, do you have to be a citizen of the United States to actually participate in the program?
Okay. The second question is easier to answer first.
Okay.
So you do not have to be a citizen of the United States to participate in this program. But you don't get full subsidy. So your subsidy is prorated based on, again, we look at the household. If someone in the household is a U.S. citizen, the remaining family members that are not U.S. citizens get a lesser subsidy. So we have to discount that. The federal government has guidelines that they don't get full subsidy because they are not a U.S. citizen.
And a ballpark percentage of people that aren't citizens that are?
There's not a whole lot.
So 10%?
I don't want to give you a number because I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I can
That's fine.
give Carolyn that, I can pull that information and give it to Carolyn, but I don't want to commit to a number that I don't want to
Okay, and I
say
can-
10, it's really 2.
I can appreciate that.
Your other question was about the NAACP.
Yes.
So so we didn't pick who the complainants were. They kind of got together on their own and then they came to us. So they obviously felt that they had a stake in the game as far as the fair housing violations that were happening within Baltimore County. You'd have to talk to them to find out what their exact reasons why for participating in that agreement.
Okay, thank you.